today, the topic is very exciting. Losing a spark in a relationship. Why do people actually lose that spark? Is it because of novelty? Is it because they're bored? Routine? There are so many things that come into play.
Routines get in the way and we really get busy. And in that busyness, sometimes we forget ourselves, we get our partner, and then we somehow live together, but you're almost separated and you're not even connected.
For me, it's not a time thing, as in the relationship has been going on for a very long time and the spark is not there. It's just that priority has changed. So that is my experience. As in, when you have a kid, it gets more demanding by the day.
As long as you both understand that that's the reality as a partner, and you come to a conclusion that, okay, this is where we are at, and we need to be easy on each other because both of us are living two separate lives and have so many other priorities and family and whatever. We should just have the expectations right.
It's understanding that initial honeymoon phase where it may be hot and steamy, for some time. It won't last forever, and that is just natural. But do you feel fulfilled in your relationship? And that doesn't just come from physical, right? It could come from emotional support as well. It could come from just spending time and just hugging or just cuddling.
Number one thing that I do believe we should, as men, if that is happening, is to have that chat with your partner and set the right expectations. That this is what I'm feeling. And a lot of the men go through this feeling of rejection time and again, and then they feel like shit, like I need to find this spark somewhere else, and that's why they cheat. All right, so we are back with another episode with my brothers Ali and Neil. Neil is still in Bali. Ali is in Denmark. He's not going anywhere. And today, the topic is very exciting since all of us are in a long-term relationship. And I know that a lot of the people, especially men, go through this. And I'm sure women go through this too. But at the moment, we're talking about men, so we'll focus on men. Losing a spark in a relationship. I think a lot of the people don't talk about it. And I can see it in your faces that you guys are very excited to talk about it because I'm sure you have not lost that spark and that's why you are being bullish. But would love to hear from you guys' side, like, why do people actually lose that spark? Is it because of novelty? Is it because they're bored? Routine? There are so many things that come into play. You're tired. You're not communicating. You don't find each other attractive anymore. You don't take care of yourself. There are so many freaking reasons. But on this table, we don't have those reasons, right? We are all taking care of ourselves. We are fit as fuck, attractive partners. Then why does this happen? So who should we start with first?
I think we need to start with the guy with the most experience here.
Experience. Yeah, let's do it. Ali.
Do we speak marriage experience or just normal experience? Because Neil would need to go first. No.
You're talking about a long-term relationship.
I'm joking. Yes. I'm joking. I'm just happy to see you guys on a Wednesday. What else would I do? It's a Thursday. Fuck, it's Thursday today.
Thursday.
Oh, well, we are Thursday and we're speaking about men and keeping the spark. No, but honestly, back to the main topic, guys. Back to the main topic, no more jokes. But regarding this one, when I was reflecting on it, I think I learned about the language of love very early on, but I started practicing it very late in my relationship. And I could have done way better on that one. So I think definitely a very good foundation is to understand language of love between you, like really understanding what is your language of love. So okay, what can I expect from my partner? And then on the other side is what are their language of love. I can tell you, for example, Fatima's language of love, she scores 10 out of 10 on gift. I fucking hate gift, which is very hard for me in translating. Why do Fatima even need gifts? I'm fucking horrible at buying gifts, by the way. I really it's meaningless. What does that mean? It took me a very long time that something that doesn't mean something for me means something for the other person. So I think that one, it really made it like understanding your language of love. Number two is routines get in the way and we really get busy. And in that busyness, sometimes we forget ourselves, we get our partner, and then we somehow live together, but you're almost separated and you're not even connected. You're still living under the same roof, but you don't feel connected at all. And that usually comes with daily routines, especially if both partners are working and especially if they have a demanding work. Your mental capacity your time is just occupied with work and all the things you do. And when you are home, honestly, you are so drained, you don't even want to spend time with your partner. The problem is, I know 1 day, 2 day, 3 days, 4 days, but when that one comes stacking, then it becomes a real problem because unless you have that attraction or connection, it's very hard to even have the intimacy in place. And once the intimacy starts to be ruined, then slowly you see that you're even getting further apart in here. So that are at least a starting point, and Neil build on it, and then we can take the conversation from there.
What do you
Yeah.
mean build on it? Like at the moment, excuse me, you have only talked about theory. Talk about your experience. What is that?
It's dude,
What is this?
I think, as I
Look,
told you, I think,
Neil, are you seeing how he's deflecting it? So
Let's
well,
go. Let's
very
go.
good.
We want your experience, sir.
okay, for me, it is, as I told you, it is two things I can speak about. One of them is how to keep being attracted and attractive for the other person. I think that one is very, very important because you have to know one thing. We have been through a lot of phases. I've been a phase where I was in Denmark, a phase where I was in Malaysia, and then a phase where I was after Malaysia. And in every single phase of my life, I was one person. So was my partner. And what is very important is when you move into another phase, it's very important that you calibrate because I think you find a new person and you need to be almost learning a new person. You need to fall in love with a new person. And I feel that is the stage, like every single stage, I had to do exactly the same thing. Along those stages, this is where sometimes you can lose the spark between you and your partner because you simply are together, but you might be totally different people, lack of understanding. You are simply a different person. And unless you calibrate, then I feel that attraction is not there for a reason. Number two, so that's pre-child. I think post-child is totally different because then, honestly, you are occupied by yourself. You are occupied with your kid. You are occupied most of the time. You are in your getting close to your 30s, and this is the peak of your career. So you're also extremely busy with that one. And all of that will actually make you really living in a certain box. So is your partner. I see it again from a female perspective. When you're getting a kid, the kid becomes your priority. The man out of a sudden is a second priority. That in itself can make a huge separation. Out of a sudden, you're not a priority, you're just an asset that needs to be there. and that can, again, at the end of it, will at some point of time also affect intimacy. And I'm going to put my bro under the bus because he's now at the age where he actually got a young kid that need a lot of attention. Your partner is there but not there. They're tired of their life. They don't feel even the attraction because they don't feel good about their own body. And because they don't feel good about their body, they don't feel attractive. And if they don't feel attractive, why should I even spend time with my partner? There are a certain sequence. And again, as I told you, it's two different things, pre-marriage and post-marriage. I hope I answered to the council. Senator Wissel S.
We're just getting started.
Almost, Ali. Almost. We'll come back to
So,
you.
so you said there's pre-marriage, post-marriage. There's also pre-kid, post-kid, right?
Yeah, oh,
So,
sorry. It was the kid. Sorry, apologies. That's true. It's
yeah,
pre-kid, post-kid. Yeah.
There
yeah.
is no pre-marriage for Ali,
Nah,
bro.
haram. No, haram.
Ali was let's get married immediately,
By
right?
the way,
Like,
Betty was sitting in the other room, so I prefer not to get killed today, okay?
we'll know if you don't show up for the next podcast. I've been going through that experience, right? Like, what happens, especially with a kid, because for me, it's not a time thing, as in the relationship has been going on for a very long time and the spark is not there. It's just that priority has changed. So that is my experience. As in, when you have a kid, it gets more demanding by the day. Like now, as he's getting older, every single day he's getting just more demanding. And, they say it takes a village to raise a child. Like, I don't have that village. We don't have that village because we're living out here, like the most we have is a nanny and and us. So it is very challenging, and it's hard to even find time for yourself. Like, even going to the toilet, you need to hurry up sometimes because something is waiting. Like, that is the reality. So by the end of the day, when you think, oh, I want to spend time with my partner or something, you just pass out because you're so tired. Like for me right now, my routine is crazy. Like he wakes up at 5 a.m. and we have to wake up as well. And then we have to entertain him and he poops and like then I go to the gym, I start work, my whole day is taken up, then I have meetings at night because time zone wise, I have to meet my clients in the night because they're in the US. That's their morning. And then start the day again, and that's it on repeat. And then during the day we may have the nanny and stuff for some hours, but then we have to work. We still have a life, we still have chores. We need to take care of things around the house and get stuff and do stuff and manage the household. So it gets to a point where you don't even, you know, remember that you're in a relationship, but you have to make an effort, and that's what we try to do. Like we try to schedule things, and it doesn't always work out. In previous episodes, we talked about like the biweekly meeting where we check in, and go through the health of the relationship, how we feel, all of these things. But then finding time for that intimate moment and everything is it gets very very hard, especially managing your energy levels, because it can be so demanding. And I think at this point, for me, how I'm managing it with my partner is that we're trying to go easy on each other, because it's not that we don't find each other attractive or anything like that. Like that's it's the opposite, but it's just the reality of being parents now at this stage. I'm sure when he's a little bit older, it may be easier when he sleeps longer, is less demanding on us, requires less for time and attention all the time. So it's like when you are spending time together, and he starts crying, like how do you navigate that, so especially when your time is limited and stuff. So yeah, it is a challenge, it is a real challenge. And then anyone going down this path, they need to understand that that is just part of the territory, in this instance, so in terms of the spark and everything, which is tied to the original theme here, I can't go so much into that in terms of like long term relationship. I did have like a 4 year relationship earlier, and in there, it's like I think it ended because there was no spark after 4 years, So uh, I don't know how to navigate that part, and maybe I was too young at that point in time as well, to have something much deeper and all, because that was something that started in my teenage years and went into the early 20s. So I think now I have much more experience with relationship and much more depth in what I seek and settle for, but yeah, that's from the parenting side of things.
Uh, Ralph, I'm just going to quickly jump in because I think it's a very important point in here regarding the whole spark thing. Because I think a topic that is worth bringing up in here is emotional vulnerability. I love that cat, and I love every single time it knows exactly when to come, bro. Bro, I cannot be emotional vulnerable while this cat is here. I'm just saying.
This cat wants to be vulnerable, bro. He's
That's
ready.
an emotional
There's
support cat,
vulnerability here.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's bro. It also looked like an emo cat, by the way. Back to the topic, because regarding the emotional vulnerability, I think it's something we spoke about it early on in a lot of podcast season episodes where we talked about that men and expressing emotions is not really one of our strong sides, and also not everyone want to handle or go into a conflict, especially not with your partner, especially if your life is already very, very, very tough. The thing that I said, and again, what you see in is it becomes accumulative. I feel this when people find each other in the beginning, of course, they're a spark. The problem is with time, that string becomes further and further and further and further into the level where it just snaps. And I think what can be done before reaching the snap point? One of them is really emotional, that's because we spoke about them. Like, okay, should men be more vulnerable? On some topics, yes, and some topic, no. And when we said, for example, if you have problems on the financial work side and so on, please keep it for yourself and your bros. If you have other things about your partner, how you feel about things and so on, speak up about that. Because if you don't feel heard, if you don't feel seen, if you don't feel connected to your partner, obviously you're going to get reached to the point where that person is just one among others. And then we can also relate to the whole point of, okay, when do men even cheat on their partner? It is when you're spark and you're living with someone where you don't have an emotional connection or responsibility for that person, that they are just, as I said, one among others. And I'm like, okay, I can find love, attraction, attention, and all of the other things that a man might be craving for. But what I'm saying here, that if a man is also not clear in his signals and express those needs, it's also very hard for a woman to understand them. I'm like, well, how is he feeling? And also because we men sometimes cannot put words on emotions. That's a very big challenge. I also have a hard time. Sometimes I need to speak for 2 hours to figure out what is the main emotion that I'm sitting with, because I don't know how to put words on my emotions. So I need also a partner that sometimes can listen to me and create the space where I can open up, because when I feel heard, I feel understood, then I feel that's a very good start of reigniting that spark. I don't know what you guys think about it and what your experience is. Rafa, you can also share from your side. I think me and Neil have covered. So the bus has been over my shoulders and his knees, and now we need to cover your back. Come.
Okay, so let's break it down, right? So you start a relationship, it's all honeymoon, right? And then you're intimate literally every single day. And you love that, right? You love that momentum. And as a man, you love being wanted. Like I think if there were an emotion that a man would need every single day is that wanting, feeling of being wanted by your partner. Because it's your partner, and of course, like at the moment in this age, like from 20s to I think early 40s, you are always so jacked up, and you want that release of energy. And I think Neil has mentioned that that energy can be used in several different ways in the previous episode. You can watch that. But essentially, if you're not using it that way, you would want to use that energy with your partner, right? If and when you are not with your partner, and when you are not in a relationship, you would be having that with several other people and exploring, right? And it's a dopamine hit, right? Whenever you go to a new partner, there is always that novelty, and there is always that excitement, and you keep having that dopamine hit. But as soon as you get into a new relationship, for the first 6 months you experience that, and then it starts to fizzle off. And it's the reality, right? Like for some people it might take a year, for some people it might take 2 years, but one or the other, it happens.
Mhm.
That's the reality of things, right?
Sure.
And when you start building that partnership, um, you also have other priorities. Like in Neil's case, in your case, there's a baby. For some people it's a house, for some people it's a job, for some people it's really making your ends meet. So there are so many things, and for some people, especially brown people, there are families, your extended families, who are also in play. Um, but it is meant to happen. I feel like there is no way in hell where, if you don't put an effort or energy into it, the excitement and the fire will stay there. There is no way in hell that would happen unless you add wood to it. And that wood could be anything, right? That could be um, communication, that could be you really making an effort, that could be the bi-weekly or weekly questions that you do, the date nights, whatever. Um, but what, as men, we need to understand is that that is meant to happen, right? And we need to be ready with that. And one thing that you both touched upon, which I would love to also repeat, is that as long as you both understand that that's the reality as a partner, and you come to a conclusion that, okay, this is where we are at, and we need to be easy on each other, because both of us are living two separate lives, and have so many other priorities and family and whatever, and we should just have the expectations right. And at times we don't do that, and we keep it to ourselves, and we feel like, oh, she doesn't like me, or she doesn't find me attractive, or he doesn't like me, or he doesn't find me attractive. So number one thing that I do believe we should, as men, if that is happening, is to have that chat with your partner and set the right expectations, that this is what I'm feeling. And a lot of the men go through this feeling of rejection time and again, and then they feel like shit, like I need to find this spark somewhere else, and that's why they cheat, right? And but if you have that chat, you will understand that And there is a possibility that your partner doesn't find you attractive. There is that possibility that she just doesn't have that time and space, or she has some resentment that she's holding against you. There are so many things. So I think communication is number one. B is setting the right expectation that, okay, we don't have that frequency, or that fire anymore. How do we keep that consistent? And a lot of the people look at, how many times do you do it a week? I think that is just bullshit. I don't think you need to have set a baseline that, oh, we have to do once a week, or we have to do twice a week. Or remember when we started the relationship, we were having every single day. And that's just not, yeah, 2 times a day, 3 times a day, you just go fucking crazy, right? Like, but when you get into a relationship where it's a lot more stable and you have different priorities and you're building different things together, I think that does take a backseat, but that does not mean that you shouldn't pursue it. I do think that you need to have a real balance, and you need to try creating that novelty. And no matter what, whatever your kinks are, I think you should share that with your partner and create and build that novelty, is what I would say.
I think those are very, very good points.
Thank you, Ali.
Now, point one, you said communicate, right? But how do you actually do that, or what's your experience with that? Because let's say you mentioned some points like the attraction is not there and stuff. So what do? Do you say that I don't find you attractive anymore? Because then you may be empathetic to that person's feeling and stuff and don't want to hurt them. So how do you navigate that part, or what's your experience with that?
See, like when I was getting into, a phase where the frequency wasn't there, and we were like, okay, we understand that we are busy in so many different things, and energy is going into so many different things, right? um so I did have those doubts. Maybe she doesn't find me attractive. And when we started communicating, she had the same doubts, and she was like, maybe you don't find me attractive. And for us, it just became so um easy to talk to, because we were facing the same pain. Like we were doubting ourselves, thinking that it's me because of which we are not there yet, right? And then what I realized was that the frequency or the intensity wasn't there because, a, we were extremely busy and we were not really taking time out to communicate, and we were not really chatting about things. We were not really learning about each other, and it was not the same as it was before. Like we feel that it's just one part, intimacy is just one part, but to women, and I've said this before as well, like for us, intimacy is physical, right? For them, intimacy is emotional. They need to be intrigued in their minds, and for that to happen, you need to be communicating a lot. And I think we started doing these weekly check-ins. We started also talking a lot more about how we are doing, how we are feeling, and like we would take out time here and there to make sure that there is communication. And the things are so much better now. Like I don't have that complaint anymore. I don't think we have lost that spark anymore. And I had that bash, but I do think that that was only fixed because we started talking a lot more, and we started taking time out for each other. Because I think in long-term relationship, you do tend to take other people for granted, because you're just living with them every single day. But I think just taking that time out, communicating, and really being interested in each other will make your life a lot more easier.
Mm, got it. So the thing is, there's nuance to it, right? Like so many variables. So it can be that you're in a long-term relationship, can be the instance of getting married and being together for a long time. It could be having kids. Like there's so many factors. But I think in general, as men, we crave novelty. I think maybe as women too, like we want something new, we want something different. Like and I don't think it's something that we should try to fight, but something we should try to navigate. Because let's say that this person is, we went into the one or your special person or whatever you call it, right? In a previous episode. But let's say that that person is someone you want to be with for a long time and marry or have a family with and everything. It's understanding that that initial honeymoon phase where it may be hot and steamy, for some time, it won't last forever, and that is just natural, right? But it can develop into something deeper. And like you said, like keeping count and comparing and reading online how much times you should have sex per week, and it's all bullshit, right? Do you feel fulfilled in your relationship? And that doesn't just come from physical, right? It could come from emotional support as well. It could come from just spending time and just hugging or just cuddling your partner. Can be so deep and meaningful because like you share such a bond. You know that this person is your person. So I think it goes much deeper. So this spark is not just about having sex and all of this, but it's much more than that. And I think anyone who is in a longer relationship would understand that how important it is just for little things, just holding hands or hugging, or when your partner just passes by and touches you, like all of these things are so important. And to me, that is like little sparks throughout the day, even though you might be busy or having something, or just sending a text, or me, I send flowers, like unexpected stuff, like Ali said, when your partner has a special love language, you need to understand that, and they need to understand you, and you need to communicate that to them as well. So that way, like even if you're not there physically present, that it shows that you're thinking about them as well. So it goes way beyond just physical and sex and all of this. There's so many elements to a relationship, and keeping it going, and just knowing that you're on someone's mind, I think can make your day. And especially when it's this person, right? So yeah, I think those are some important things to note as well.
So, Neve,
Yeah.
can I add to that one from a personal experience? So it's not generalization; it's really from
Yeah.
personal. And I think my personal experience and my dad afterwards. But for myself, as you said it, you start to understand that just you really fall in love with the person. Because in the beginning, as we said, you need to split between attraction and love. Attraction most of the time is actually to the physical attribute of a woman, where love is really in the soul and the spirit and the identity of that person. And the longer I'm also seeing it from my own relationship, the more you are together, the more you're just in love with that person as they are. And I think that's one of the most noble things. I'm like, you know what? You're just perfect the way that you are, and so on. Number two is regarding, we also need to, speaking about men and responsibility. I think the more you are as a man and the more you create a space that your woman can be in a woman, the more you will ignite and have that spark. What do I mean by that? People think I need to go to the gym, I need to look my best. Women would appreciate that. Women would even appreciate that you clean up, that you take the dishes, that you de-stress her, because a stressed woman would never be in a state of feeling attractive or attractive or attract anyone else. And like it's simply a blocker of any, and forget anything called intimacy in here. And I think that's one thing we need to be very, very much aware of. I'm understanding, okay, how can I de-stress this person? But I think also one thing that's very important in here, also if you want to live with a person for a longer time, you cannot do everything conditional. I do A because I expect B. You will, with time, do things only for the sake that you love that person and you really want to see that person happy. And I think once you achieve that level, I just want to see that person happy. Once this person is happy, they will actually love to give from themselves. And this is where you see the spark, and you will see a way more beautiful love where in the beginning it might be intimacy and the sexual relationship. The other one is that you have someone who loves you from you wake up till you sleep again. And that's it's a total different game. And that's what I'm saying. It's not about the quantity of how many times you sexually are together. It's about how well are you connected, and do you feel that specialness from start to the end. Even though I can have a fucking tough day, just the fact I come home, Fatima smiling, I'm like, that's it, done. Dude, it's for me more than anything else. And we said it again regarding the whole novelty and so on. I really understand it, but sometimes we won't realize the value of things that we have when we lose them. And we always say the grass is green on the other side. Trust me, if you are a man who is having a challenge with your woman, it's most like 99% of the time, if you go to another woman, you'll have the same challenges after 6 months when she realizes you are this man, because she got a woman instinct, you got a male instinct, and she will sense your bullshit and she will attack those bullshit areas of you. And I think, but sometimes give on away something that's very beautiful and something else. Of course, I've been in a relationship for 10 years. Don't you think sometimes I'm thinking, what is on the other side? But the grass is always greener on the other side. However, sticking to a relationship and being committed to it have its advantages that is unlocked on long term. Which leads me to the next point. My father, the other day, we were out on a bike, and you're like, I know my mom is a very simple lady. This much. She finished school at 6 years, at the age of 10 or something like that, and she was home and so on. Very simple moment. My father was very well educated, so of course there was a very big gap between my father and my mom. And for the longest time, I think he liked my mom, but just for her taking care of the house and so on and so on. But really shocked me the other day when we were actually together and taking on a bike. He's like, dude, you know what? Yeah, he called me dude. But he's like, I don't think I can ever live with your mom. And I really appreciate the fact that she's just existing in my life, that I have someone that I can speak with, and that I have her, just that she's there means so much to me. And I never saw how much she's meant to me until now. And he's like, I think 65 now, something like that. And I think it's so beautiful. And also sometimes when I'm looking at older people, I think it's the most beautiful things. When you look at the older couple, all gray, holding hands and going, I'm like, what have you guys done that you still have that love that's connecting you both together? Because it's not the intimacy. Intimacy is gone a long time ago, but still deeply connected.
How do you know, Ali?
Bro. But seriously, I think it's so fucking beautiful. So one of the main points in here is like, how do you de-stress? Because this is your man. And I think men have the ability to take responsibility and not for responsibility. You are the one. Again, I'm not responsible for making my partner happy. That's not up to me. But I can create the circumstances that can de-stress her so she actually can feel in her female, because if she's in her female, she would love to give from her female. And then she will, at the end of it, like a flower, flourish and give from her intimacy. And at the end of it, we are the receivers. And I think it's somehow a cycle, but please lift the burden from the woman as much as you can and understand her. Because again, the list that Rafi shared and Neil shared, it says what is burdening you, what is annoying you, what is frustrating you. And your role is to be very smart. Okay, if I remove these 3-4 things, she would really appreciate it. And at least that's how I've been tackling things. And that's my learning over the past 11 years now.
Beautiful, you guys. I think this episode was extremely enlightening. I thought that we would talk a lot of quirky things, but I'm happy that it was so enlightening and so insightful. It was truly like beautiful, just hearing your thoughts. And I'm hoping that whoever is listening is also getting value out of this, because I think a lot of the people just think of spark as sex again and again and again, and I think it's beyond that. It's building that partnership, it's building that relationship, and loving the person that you are in a relationship with through thick and thin. And I think that's how you build the relationship. With that being said, I will open the floor again to either of you guys. If there is nothing, then I would appreciate if Neil can close this episode.
All right, awesome. Yeah, I think even for me, I learned a lot on this episode. Thank you, Ali, for sharing. Thank you, Rafi, as well. Like, yeah, I think one of the things that you mentioned there, I just want to highlight that so it doesn't get lost. That we need to bring back there from everything you said is the keeping score type of relationship. That is a recipe for disaster. And it's something that I have done myself. I have seen other people do it, other men especially. Like, oh, if I do this, I get sex, or if I do this, something comes out of it. But if you just give and expect nothing in return, that's when you get the most. So that's a very, very important point. And yeah, I think it was a solid episode, a lot to work with here. Hope you guys are taking notes, and yeah, see you on the next episode.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.